Welcome to this introductory talk on Religious Studies, Philosophy and Ethics A-Level. I'm going to pass over to the subject lead, Mr. Higgins, who's going to give you a brief outline as to the specification and the three different examinations.
For the A-Level Philosophy and Ethics course, there are three different components. There is Philosophy of Religion, Religion and Ethics, and Development in Christian Thought. Each of these components is 33% of your final grade and are a 2-hour exam. In Philosophy of Religion, you study questions about reality, about God, and about what we can trust in the world. So you look at philosophers like Plato and Aristotle. We study about their ideas, their understanding. Look at the soul, the mind, and the body. What are those concepts? Are they true? Is there any validity to them? And we look at who God is. Is he real? And what proof is there, or what evidence is there that he does exist? Who, in terms of philosophers, created arguments about that? We look at religious experience. What does that mean? What do those look like? What types are there? Look at the nature of God. Can God be benevolent? Can God be all-powerful? Can he be all-seeing at the same time? Are there issues with that? And we look at ideas of religious language. When we talk about God, what do we mean by that? What are we saying? In religion,
Just heard Mr. Higgins there, who's the subject lead for Beliefs and Issues and RE in Philosophy. And this is a one-man department, and what that means in terms of advantages is that you've got a specialist teacher who you'll have for all of your allocated hours. You'll be there for extra support when it's provided. Mr. Higgins doesn't teach any other A-level subjects, so it means that this is his primary focus for the sixth form. And he's got a library of philosophical literature that you can look into, and you can borrow specific texts from, and you can get involved in extracurricular opportunities as well, so philosophy conferences. It's a very small department, and as a consequence it means that we have a lot of debates, a lot of discussions take place. So Zaina, who's in year 12 for example, she's written this testimonial of what Mr. Higgins' lessons are like. I won't read it completely for you, but it'd be a good idea to just pause, have a look and see what Zaina finds the RE Philosophy and Ethics lessons to be like. Now, not every single GCSE provider offers religious studies or philosophy as a GCSE option, and as a consequence we're not after any specific requirements for studying religious studies and philosophy at GCSE level. You can come in completely fresh, never having studied religious studies before. Now, what we would say, however, is that we would need a grade 5 in any humanities-based subject because of the essay requirement that's needed for RE Philosophy and Ethics, and you obviously still need to meet the minimum entry requirement of 7 pass grades. However, there are also some desirable traits that we need to really stress, because a lot of people will think that RE in Philosophy and Ethics is just about debating. It is a large portion of the course, but there is extensive extended essays as part of the course. So you need to ensure that you are a keen reader, that you're interested in broadening your horizons and reading more information, reading perhaps articles and books that you haven't necessarily come across before, and that you're confident at writing extended essays. Now that ability to sustain an argument is something that you'll practice over A-level studies, but if you're the kind of person that is quite argumentative, is somebody that's always got an opinion about something, then that would be a good trait to have for the RE Philosophy and Ethics course. It will be a course as well where there will be a requirement to study independently, and there will be quite a lot of information that you are directed to as part of your study. So an ability to work independently would also be an attractive quality or an attractive trait to have for an RE Philosophy and Ethics student. Now, in terms of careers that are linked to philosophy and ethics, there isn't necessarily a go-to job sector area. It's what we would call a facilitating subject. So you can do essentially anything having studied A-level philosophy and ethics. So a good example would be that an architect that we use within the school for advice on work experience and anyone that's wanting to do architecture, well, the subjects that he studied at A-level were maths, art, and philosophy and ethics, and actually he's found it to be particularly useful when he's having briefs, when he's having assignment briefs with clients, to be able to make sure that he can sustain the argument that he's trying to present with his work. Likewise, to consider certain ethical constraints or problems that relate to any particular projects, again, he's found to be particularly useful. We've had students that in the past have gone into a variety of different sectors, so going into NGOs, schools, charities, non-for-profit organisations, church and religious organisations, the NHS, PR. You can essentially use this particular course for any kind of future career pathway. So in terms of summer work that we're expecting the students to be doing, we've got the consolidating the GCSE materials, broadening subject horizons, and then completing the bridging tasks. And the bridging tasks are the essential activity. For consolidating GCSE work, as we've already said, there isn't a requirement to study RE at GCSE level, and it might be that you haven't done that. If you have done it, obviously it would be useful to go through the content which you did for GCSE level, particularly if you've looked at anything which is more to base with euthanasia, for example, because that's a popular topic to consider at GCSE standard. But if you haven't covered this, then it would be useful to look back through your English language and literature courses, and if you've done it, history. The reason why is because those are subjects where you have to sustain an argument in an extended piece of writing. So it would be a useful exercise to go through those particular subject areas and just practice your essay writing skills. As well as that, what you can do is you can email Mr. Higgins, whose email address is on the main form that you've been given, and you can ask for some subject-specific work for philosophy to get ahead with if you want to. It'll be stuff that you'll cover in September, but you can get ahead with it and you can start getting your head around some of these basic concepts during August. Now, with broadening your subject horizons, there's a great podcast called the Panpsycast, and that's something that Mr. Higgins utilises with his students at A-level and directs them to a number of different talks that are relevant for content that they're going through. And you can start picking away at different podcasts from there that you might be interested in. So it's not a case of looking at all of them, it's just looking at a few of them and seeing whether or not that would be something that you're interested in or something that you can expand your horizons on. There is a great BBC Radio 4 podcast that you can access on BBC Sounds called Moral Maze. It takes some of the key issues of today and tries to put a moral spin on it. So it's not necessarily directly linked to the course, which Panpsycast is very good at, but Moral Maze will give you that broad understanding and perhaps the application that you can use the Philosophy and Ethics course for when looking at current affairs. Finally, the things that you need to complete ready for your September course in RE Philosophy and Ethics are the essential bridging tasks. Now, you should definitely do the middle task, which is a 500-word essay in response to the question, what is philosophy and ethics? And a little bit of a hint on that one, if you message Mr. Higgins via email, he's got some reading materials that he can pass through to you from a number of the textbooks that might give you some ideas. Now, that's the one that you have to complete. And you can choose two of the other activities from the outside. So the first place that you might want to have a look at is the Netflix series The Good Place, and I think it's just come on to full row D as well. So if you haven't watched The Good Place, it's essentially a TV drama that's about the afterlife, and it's very good at highlighting some of the main philosophical and ethical dilemmas that are posed to some of the key thinkers. Now, what you could do is you could watch an episode of The Good Place and prepare a short report on how it relates to philosophy and ethics. You could also, for example, watch the first series, and that might help you with one of the blue activities that you've got here, which is about researching the trolley problem, and you could prepare a short report on that as well. Away from the good place, what you could do is you could research 2 specific case studies related to euthanasia and whether or not you believe that the individual in these situations should have been allowed to commit euthanasia. It'd be worth sending those responses to Mr. Higgins perhaps in advance of September so that you've got something to debate when you arrive. You can create your own artistic impression of hell and try and think about why you've created it in that particular image. That might help you when you're looking at that concept of the afterlife. You could write a 500-word report discussing the existence of evil, rules out the existence of an omnibenevolent God. So try and think about the general arguments of why God might exist, and there's 3 main areas, and if you look on the OCR spec you'll be able to see those 3 different areas. You might want to research the law on abortion in different countries around the world and try and prepare a short report explaining the stance of 2 countries on the issue and the reasonings behind their position. Looking at America, for example, which is a federal state, a federal country, it might be useful to see the differences even within one united nation or supposedly united nation. You might also want to expand on your artistic skills from the activity relating to hell and try and create an artistic representation of the soul. Again, that's something that will be very useful for your philosophy of religion component. And finally, you might want to maybe challenge that particular statement of some people are born evil, and you might want to maybe use some famous people from history or characters from literature and try and give a bit of a perspective on what that statement is. What does it mean to be evil as a person? So those are the essential activities. You can choose 2 from the outside and make sure that you do that one in the middle. If you've got any further questions, please email Mr. Higgins, and thank you very much for watching.